Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Real Red Talk. It is decision time for Ruben Amorim. And what do we mean by decision time? We mean Victor Lindelof, Christian Eriksen, Amad Diallo, Johnny Evans, Harry Maguire. We want to talk about their futures for the next year or so. Well, we're not going to talk for the next year. You'd be here forever. But I'm talking about in terms of their individual contracts. We're going to talk about Amorim's influence over recruitment. A couple of reports coming out from Rob Dawson on that. He's also spoken to the media ahead of Sporting's game against Manchester City, and a certain journalist from Sky Sports, I'm sure you all know who I'm going on about, just fucking weird, fruity behaviour. But we'll talk about that and why we have a goal drought and Euro's return to Amorim's first game. So plenty to sink our teeth into, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
How are we feeling today?
Extremely tired. I didn't sleep well last night, but we're good. 2 shows today, bang them out of the park. Both going to be really good, so we keep rolling.
Yeah, I have to say that show we did at 12 o'clock was really good, wasn't it, with Sam? Really, really insightful. So, of course, as we always say, guys, if you do have some spare time in the day and you're looking for some content to listen to, the video we did at 12 o'clock with Sporting Sam, as we call him now, go check that out. It's really deep dive into Ruben Amorim and everything at Sporting and what's going on at the moment, and very insightful, if I do say so myself. But we're going to bring it back slightly to Manchester United, Sam.
Yep.
Now, these players that we're looking at, well, not looking at, but the players that I think contracts run out, bar Harry Maguire, I think he's the only one who's got a 1-year extension.
Yep.
Maybe Amad's got one in there. But Victor Lindelof, Eriksen, Johnny Evans in there as well. Who do we keep, and who do you think Amorim will like, in your opinion?
I don't see us keeping any of them, to be honest with
you.
No. Lindelof is, what, 5th choice? Centre-back?
Even that's arguable. But you're probably right, yeah.
Like, De Ligt, Lissandro, Yoro would be 3rd, maybe, if he comes fit. Maguire, and then Lindelof.
Yeah.
So 5th choice, like, centre-back. Does he want him to stick around? I don't know what wage he's on. I imagine it's quite a decent chunk for a 5th choice centre-back. Like, I would prefer that spot to be taken up by a young player, like a youth academy prospect. Like we had with Willie Campbell. That's what I would prefer.
Do we have any coming through though at the moment? That's the thing.
It's Louis Jackson money, but he was 16, wasn't he? So he's ready or not? Kid. I don't know. I doubt it. But
I actually quite like Campbell. So.
I did. I liked him. But that's gone now, hasn't it? Is it Villarreal? Yeah. So yeah, that's where I'd be like, I'd go out and get young prospects, like a 16, 17-year-old like centre back. Sort of like we've done with Sekou Kone, Chidi Oben Martin, those kind of guys. I'd go out and get one of those and then bring him up like when you need it and stuff. So I'd go out. Eriksen, maybe he stays because he's one of the few technical players that we have. Maybe we can give him an extension, like a rolling 1 year.
Should he stay, in your opinion?
I don't think. No, I think we should move him on. I think we need to start moving forward and move beyond these sort of players and stuff like that. But maybe he could stay. Maybe you can't get every midfielder in that you want to do. So maybe you put him on a rolling 1-year deal on a lower wage and just sort of explain to him, look, you're not going to be first choice, but you'll play X amount of games and stuff maybe. But again, he shouldn't stay for me. Maguire, I think you should try and sell if possible. If he's only got a year left, I think you should try and sell him. Get the wages off the books and use that money to reinvest in the squad. Get somebody like a Yoro, get somebody like a De Ligt on the books. Then you've got 4 really solid centre-backs. I think that would be a really great idea. And then Amad, you have to re-sign him, don't you? You have to re-sign him.
For sure.
That has to be done. So as soon as possible, get him re-signed.
Yeah. Well, anyone who's just joining, we'd love to hear your thoughts as well on that situation out of the players that I've just mentioned. Lindelof, Eriksen, Amad, Evans, Maguire. Who would you keep on and why, and who do you expect to kind of flourish under Ruben Amorim? I mean, we've spoken about Amad under Amorim, haven't we, Sam, in terms of that half space as one of those 10s. I think he can really flourish in that, and I'm excited to see it because he's not really gotten the opportunities, has he? That I think he deserves more game time, Amad.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think Garnacho put in an absolute stinker on Sunday, and Rashford gets taken off, and it's just like that. That was a bizarre decision to me. It's like, why would you take Rashford off? Like, Rashford wasn't fantastic by any means, but I think Garnacho was having a horrific game. Yeah. So take him off, put Rashford on the left, put Amad on there. Like, I don't understand why that wasn't the decision, but it wasn't, and Garnacho stayed on. So I think when Garnacho has games like that, I think you have to play Ahmad and Rashford together. I think that's what I would like to see. I think as well in the Amorim system, if he is going to play sort of with a 3-4-3 system, you could maybe play him in behind the striker as well. Like you have that Højlund Xerxes thing that we spoke about that I've not seen. I've only seen once for a few minutes, but you could play Ahmad in that position as well to link up with a striker, and he could drift out wide, similar to what Sporting Sam said that Bruno does with Portugal. He can come essentially when he goes out to the right. You can have Ahmad do that similar position as well. So yeah, I think he's underutilized, and you saw how upset he was under Ten Hag and stuff, and then he's been like all smiles under Ruud van Nistelrooy. So hopefully under Amorim he gets an opportunity and he gets chances, because I think it will be a player that Amorim likes. I think he'll enjoy working with him. I think he works hard, he tracks back, he's very effective on the front foot, and I think he can cause goals and assists and stuff like that. So hopefully he gets the opportunity, because I think he's a very good player.
To be honest, I wouldn't be opposed to keeping Johnny Evans. I know that might sound a bit mad, but I think this squad, and you see and you hear stories from other teams. I mean, even Sporting Sam, who we had on before, was talking about Amorim brought in players just for experience in the dressing room, didn't he? In terms of being on the coaching staff or what have you. So I would keep someone like Johnny Evans around, because I think even his performances in reality, he's been one of the better centre backs. And then when you go to a back three, arguably be even more comfortable. I think.
Yeah, if it depends what Johnny Evans wants to do. Is he looking at retirement? Does he want to keep on playing? Like, what is he looking to do? Like, I wouldn't have an issue keeping him on. Like, I don't have an issue with it. Is he looking to do his coaching badges? If so, could he stay at United and do his coaching badges and then play for us while he's doing those? I'd be all right with that. Yeah, I don't have an issue with Johnny Evans staying.
No, neither do I. I mean, characters in general like that, I think it'd be interesting to see who he keeps in. Darren Fletcher, there's a lot of news around that at the moment. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? Same thing with Ruud van Nistelrooy, who's, of course, the interim manager at the moment, but on his contract, he's set to go back to the assistant. So I think in terms of piecing that together, that'd be interesting, and we'll lay some more kind of news bits on that as the year progresses. In terms of bringing players in, Rob Dawson reported before that Amorim's influence over recruitment will be reduced in comparison to Erik ten Hag, which I'm sure the majority of fans will probably be happy to hear that. He'll be asked for his opinion about which players to retain, but final decisions will be made by Omar Barada, Dan Ashworth, and Jason Wilcox. And this is something that we've touched on before, Sam, in terms of, let's say, Pep Guardiola, when he went and got Doku, he wants a certain profile. These are the 3 players that I've got for you. Which one do you want? That kind of system. Is this a good thing? And do you trust their recruitment? Having a look at, we've had one summer at the moment. It's hard to say if it's successful or not yet, isn't it?
I think also Ten Hag had a lot of influence on this summer, and I think it's hard to sort of argue that when you look at some of the players that have come in. Obviously, De Ligt, I think, was a Ten Hag influenced option. Lenny Yoro seems more like an Ineos buy, doesn't it? Ugarte seems like an Ineos buy. Maybe with hindsight, they were looking at Amorim. Maybe that was an option. So there's a couple there where you're like, that's an Erik ten Hag buy, and he had too much influence because he had in his contract that he had transfer vetoes, he had a lot of power, and his title was manager. And then obviously they couldn't agree the extension with him because they couldn't agree to reduce the amount of power that he would not give up, which is why they just activated the 1-year option. So obviously Ruben Amorim, he's coming in as a head coach, not a manager, so he's going to have less influence on transfers. I still think the manager needs to be consulted, like you said, with Pep or with Jurgen Klopp or with Arteta. They're going to be like, okay, what do you need to build this team? And they'll say, I need a quick striker, or I need a fast winger who can do X, Y, Z. And then, like you said, they'll go out, find a profile of like 5, 6 different players and be like, these are the pros and cons of this guy. This is how much it's going to cost. This is one for the youth prospect. This is one who's ready to go straight in the team. This is one that might be a bit of a risk, but the money might pay off. So they'll have all these different options. And that's how a transfer committee and a transfer board should work for the manager. They should work hand in hand. Whereas I think Ten Hag was just like, I want this guy because I trust him and I've worked with him before. And they've gone to get him. And it's kind of been left in the lurch because some of them haven't performed, like Anthony, for example. I think when these transfers come in, it's going to be much more on Ineos if they don't work or not, isn't it? Because they're the ones that are picking these players. It's going to be less on the manager. So I think the manager will get a bit more of an easy ride. Although we have seen in the past when players are forced upon managers, it doesn't always work. Look at Ollie with Ronaldo and Donny and stuff like that. So there's pluses and minuses to both sides of it, I suppose.
I was going to suggest that. Do you think it alleviates the pressure on the manager? Because the stick that Ten Hag always got beaten with was the Anthony one. The Ole Gunnar Solskjaer one was Harry Maguire. You could argue Jose Mourinho's was Fred,
Yeah.
after spending £50 million on him. So in that sense, it would alleviate the pressure. But then the pressure is on, well, what's they doing upstairs? So they've got to be careful, haven't they? Because recruitment isn't an easy thing, which we've known for a while. Like, I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket and saying, Ineos are the guys to go and get us the correct players. I don't know how you feel.
No, like you've got to be cautious. You've got to try and be optimistic, because if you're not trying to be optimistic with a football team, then you're in for a miserable time.
Yeah.
Because
I feel like I'm too negative about United sometimes, to be honest.
I mean, I think we're all guilty of it just because of the way it's been going recently. I think it's very difficult to say positive about United, but you've got to try, and at some point you got to hope it's got to turn around. And I think we've got the right people in charge. Dan Oshriff has got a very good track record. Omar Barada's got a very good track record. Jason Wilcott's got a good track record. I think if you put enough of those people in place, and then you get Ruben, you get the right manager, and you get rid of some players, I think eventually something has to click. Whether that's this season, whether that's next season, I don't know. But something has to click eventually when you start putting all these pieces together. And I think we're due a boost at some point. It's just when that's going to be, and is there going to be enough patience from the fan base for that boost to happen? It's a really difficult situation, and recruitment is everything in football. If you don't get your recruitment right, you're not going to succeed. That's everything. People want to say the manager's important and this is important. Managers are only important to a certain degree because the players go out on the pitch and perform. You have to get the right players. The recruitment has to be spot on. If it isn't, there's only so much a manager can do.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Amorim. I mean, maybe we should have dived a bit more into that on the show with this afternoon. But in terms of how much influence he had at Sporting, whether it was like a lot, because obviously it's a different kind of scenario. Then if you go into Manchester United, a much bigger club with all due respect, but then it's a different operation to what you had at Sporting. Will it kind of be as fluid going for? I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. But of course, he's still got a couple of games before he joins Manchester United, and a big one against Manchester City tomorrow night, Sam. And there was a media press conference held today. Now, I'm going to get into what he said about, the situation with Fergie and all that kind of stuff. But before I do, have you seen Gary Cotterill from Sky Sports, the situation?
Yeah, I've heard about it. I've not seen the video itself, but I have heard about it. He's the guy who chased Ten Hag through the car park, wasn't he?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah,
Dickhead.
he is that guy.
Dickhead.
Yeah. And he was like, "Can we have an answer in English, please?" And Ruben's like, "What? Like, I'm here to speak to the Portuguese press and give my thoughts on the Sporting game, basically, and shut him down." And then again, he was like, "So you don't want to speak to your English fans? Are you giving us the cold shoulder before you join the club?" And da da da. And it's like almost that encapsulates a bit of what the English media is about, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad he shut him down. I'm glad he was just like, "No, fuck off. I'm going to answer questions the way I want to answer questions. I'm all right with it." I think more journalists who sort of like try and come at United in a negative angle or paint us in a negative light, like we've spoke about Neil Custard, we spoke about Samuel Luckhurst and stuff like that. They shouldn't be given an easy ride. They shouldn't be given into demands and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, they don't do anything positive for Manchester United, or at least don't write the truth anyway. Like that is one thing. If they write the truth and you don't like it, that's one thing. But when they just write pure bollocks, and he's just an example of like poor journalist standards, really, isn't it? Like you sort of begging for a sound bite just so you can go back to your editor and be like, "Look, I got him to say this, I got him this." Like
he said, you can so you give the Portuguese fans 24 minutes, or the Portuguese media, 24 minutes, but you can't give us 10 seconds. And loads of like weird questions like that, and I'm like, and then after it, they was chatting to him on Sky Sports, and he was like, "So did you not get your question?" He was like, "No, I really tried," and da da da. And I'm just like, this is the kind of shit he's gonna have to deal with when he comes to United, isn't it? So I suppose it's almost like training for him when he gets to your Luckhurst and your Custards and all these guys.
I'm sure they'll have been warned. I'm sure he'll get like from the United PR office and stuff like that. I'm sure he'll be told.
Watch out for him.
There's certain journalists who are going to come for you and just give them neutral answers. Don't give him anything to work with, and you'll be fine. And then I'm hoping he gives sort of more time to the likes of like the Athletic and Laurie Whittle and stuff like that. People who actually genuine questions and stuff like that. Yeah. I hope that's where he gives his more time, because they ask the more fascinating tactical insight questions, which is what I want to hear. I don't give a shit about like what was he asking? Some journalist was asking Ten Hag about Oh, like, did you like cycling around Old the Edge or whatever it is? Like, I don't give a shit about where you go cycling. Like, who
Yeah.
cares? Like,
Why
ask me
is
about
the
the fucking game.
yeah. Yeah. What do you think about Hoyland's development? What can he
Yeah,
improve on? These kind of things we want to know about
fuck's
as
sake,
fans. I
man.
mean, bizarre things. But the majority of those ones that we were speaking about, like Custard and Luckhurst, I don't think I've ever heard Luckhurst ask a positive question once.
No.
It's always negative with him. And I would love someone, I doubt anyone will ever do this. I would love someone to go through all these tweets, let's say just over the past 3 years, and compile them together and just see if there is one in there somewhere. Maybe there's one that kind of slips through
I'm
the cracks,
sure.
but
I'm sure we put one on the group chat. It was a positive one. I'm sure there was
where?
one. There was definitely one because it stood out because it was so positive. I remembered it was like a positive
Wow.
thing.
Yeah,
But
I'm surprised.
I
It
broke.
makes you think, though, doesn't it? Like, why did he keep him in there after? Because he are so negative and so like. It's,
I suppose
I
it's
don't
freedom of the press, isn't it? Like you can't permanently ban people just reporting. Like even though if it's not true, like you can't do that unless they're saying something libelous. Like you know
Not
what I
even when there's
mean?
a narrative being painted every time.
No, because it's opinion pieces and there's like weird things around it. And it's just like unless they're sort of being libelous, where they're just like literally going, he stole something from X. Like, do you know what I
Mm,
mean? Like, you
yeah.
can't print that because that's like accusing somebody of something. So there's weird laws about freedom of the press and stuff like that. But people have got their agendas, man. They know what works. They know what gets clicks and stuff like that. They know what is going to get their attention and sell to advertisers. It's like, oh, go advertise on our website because look at our click revenue because of the bullshit clickbait stories we
Oh
put
my
in.
god, have you ever been on the Manchester
Oh,
Evening News
I can't.
website?
I can't. It's like
Oh
it's
my
like
god,
cancer. It's just cancer
it
all
is
over it. Fucking horrible.
awful. The pop-ups as well of like advertise, it's just horrific. Whoever made that website, go fuck yourself. That
Yeah,
is what I'll say.
yeah.
What did they get initially banned for? Just before we move on to his comments about City, was it the Rasmus
Uh,
thing? From what I can remember.
possibly. I can't
I'm
remember.
sure Luckhurst put an article about Rasmus saying that he doesn't speak to teammates or something in
Yeah,
training.
he got banned. Did is it Rob Dawson got banned as well?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it was. Someone in the chat will probably
yeah.
remember. But yeah, just things like that. Ruben Amorim, just expect this whirlwind of
Mhm.
shit to come your way. Now, he was speaking about the City game tomorrow night, which we've already spoken about. That it's probably going to be the highest viewed game in City's history because there'll
Yep.
be a lot of United fans paying attention. He said if the result versus City is negative, expectations will drop. If we win, they'll think that the new Sir Alex Ferguson has arrived. What interests me is to win a good farewell in I can't say the thing, Alvalade, win in Braga, and start a new adventure in Manchester. But as a manager, Sam, he's got to have that in the back of his mind. I don't care what anyone says.
Oh yeah. No, he's got to be like you want to endear yourself to Manchester United fans. You want to be our second biggest rivals in the Champions League. Like that is going to help, isn't it? That's definitely going to be
Yeah,
like nice little tick in a box. He can come in and be like, "Oh yeah, I beat City already this year," and then and he can use it in a press conference. I've beaten once already. I can do it again. A
yeah.
nice little easy win, isn't it? So I'm all right with it. I've just seen a quote from him as well, from the Times. The
Mm.
possibility of managing City. He said, "Obviously, it is one thing that crossed my mind, but I never had any doubts about the club I wanted to work for. My decision was made. I was not undecided about it. I wanted Manchester United, so that'll go down well as well. That's a nice little,
It'll go down well,
yeah,
but I also have it in the back of my
PR.
mind
It's
that
PR.
is that a
Yeah,
little bit of lip
yeah.
service.
It definitely, it definitely is a little bit, but it's a
Yeah.
nice little quote,
It's
isn't it?
nice, it's nice. I just never subscribe to those quotes when
Yeah,
I'm like
yeah,
but yeah, I suppose it's nice. He also spoke about Jose Mourinho. He said the impact he had on my career was the way he treated me. He showed me that you can win everything and be a different person than you think. A special coach who opened door for us. Obviously, Jose Mourinho being someone who had a lot of time at United and still holds United dear to his heart, as we saw in the kind of Fenerbahce fixture. But do you reckon he looks at Mourinho's time there and he's like, this is a guy who I idolise, this is a guy who I looked up to, a guy with character, one of the greatest coaches ever, and he failed there. So
yeah.
what can I do different?
I think Mourinho. There was a couple of things, wasn't there? He wasn't backed by the Glazers because he came
Mhm.
second, which was according to him his greatest achievement ever in football. Take
Yeah,
that whether you will.
won a
Um,
treble, but forget
yeah,
about that.
yeah. And he wasn't backed because the following transfer window he got what Dallo, Lee Grant, and Fred. That was his
I think so,
transfer,
yeah.
wasn't it? Like, how do you back a guy who's just gone second and you want him to go on to the next to win a league, and that's the three players you bring him? Like, that's not backing a manager. And obviously he lost his shit and just started chucking people under the bus, and it became toxic and ended badly. So I think he was let down by the board, which I don't think will happen under Ineos, because we've seen them back Ten Hag fully. So I think that I expect him to back Amorim fully. And then he sort of just started to burn the house while he was still in it. And again, I don't know if Amorim's that sort of character. I think he's got fire to him and he's got that sort of like sternness, but I don't think he's.
Well, Sam said he never throws the players under a bus.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't see him doing that. So if you can avoid those two things, he's already 50% on the way there, isn't he?
Yeah, agreed. I just look at United, and I just think that we've always, for as long as I can remember, whether it was under Erik Ten Hag, whether it was under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or Mourinho, in particular those three managers, I always feel like it was just moments when and despite it doesn't even have to be the same individuals that we're discussing, like last night's performance, let's say.
Yeah.
Just in general, they only seem to show up in moments and times, and you could reference so many points in the tournament and the finals and PSG that night. It's weird, isn't it? It's like there's some sort of cloud or curse that just can't seem to be removed, despite what new manager or players come in, and I can't put my finger on what it is.
We've not been a team for a long time. Like, there's not been a team for it. It's been a group of individuals, and we've just sort of rotated, like musical chairs, rotated individuals out and then rotated individuals in, and it's just not changed anything. And it's just, we're continuing on. The music's still going, and just nobody's still just not been able to win. And it's just continued on. And like I said, we play in moments. There was a couple of moments in the Chelsea game that were really good. There was a pass from Mazraoui across the thing to Marcus Rashford, like fantastic pass.
Oh, Ugarte,
sorry. Yeah. And stuff like that. You're like, oh my God, that was fantastic. And you think, here we go. And then nothing happens from it.
Yeah.
Or we turn up in a game like the City final. We show up and we beat City at their own game and tactically outthink them, but we're not capable of doing it consistently through a season. So it's been like that. And the same under Ole. There was the Paris moment, wasn't there? Like, we showed up in Paris and we did it, but we couldn't get over the line in the semi-final. Jose, there was moments like that. It was always the same. There's never been a consistent run together of where we've put together a title charge all the way to the end of the season, or we've put together a Champions League run where we've got to the final and we've won. Never been the case. It's always been fits and starts, moments and stuff. Even the FA Cup run last year, we could have gone out about 4 different times. Could have been knocked out. Like Coventry, that was like a toenail away from being knocked out in the semi-final at Wembley. So it's never been that way. And I don't get it. I really don't understand why, with the talent that we have, we can't form a team and get together.
I mean, you can't really like just pin it on one thing, can you?
No.
With United. But I think the fact that we do have a lot of young players in this squad at the minute. I know there's some experienced ones in there. But I actually think probably one of the biggest factors is the media and the attention, because I think that swallows people up. The pressure is, and I'm saying United should always have pressure. It should come with it. I'm not saying it shouldn't, but I do think that is a big part of it at this club. The expectation, the weight, and you look at our history. It's always referenced. The pundits around as well, like you see Roy Keane's comments on Bruno Fernandes last night. I'm not saying I necessarily disagree with him. I did think it was slightly harsh. But stuff like that, you're always in the public eye. You're always, circling the news and TalkSport and all these other media outlets. And maybe some people will come back on that and say, well, if you can't handle the pressure, get out the kitchen or what have you. But I do think that's a big part of it, Sam.
Yeah, no, you see so many media outlets. What's their first thing? Is talking about United, especially when we lose, especially when we have a negative story. Like, how much coverage did we get about Ten Hag when he was on these last couple of games? Jesus Christ, it was just everywhere. TalkSport, Sky Sports, BBC, everything. It was just non-stop. Like, it was just thing. And then go back to the takeover. Like, how many stories about Qatar, about Ineos, like, it's a Jim Radcliffe. Like, it was just non-stop.
Oh, when Ten Hag was going to be sacked. Do you remember when he was an IB for?
Yeah, like, it's just non-stop. But, like, you remember the Chelsea takeover? There was, like, a story for a week, and it fucked off, didn't it? Just disappeared. City won a treble. The newspapers talked about it for about 3 days and then never mentioned it again.
If something happens...
City are going through 115 charges right now. There's no coverage. There's nothing. Like, literally nobody's talking about it, but everybody's talking about Ruben Amorim at United. Like, it's just ridiculous, man.
With the global club that we are, it's like when something happens with United, you hear it in like Tanzania, don't you? That's the difference. It's just it goes all around the world, and I do think that the pressure is a big part of that. And like I said, we do have a lot of young players, and I think also something that I wanted to discuss was this kind of goal drought that they're on at the moment, because that's another, in terms of speaking about this season specifically, I think that is a big issue. In the league alone, Garnacho 2 goals is our top goal scorer. Everyone else has 1. In all competitions, it's Garnacho with 6, 4 assists, Bruno 3 goals, 5 assists, Eriksen 4 goals, 3 assists, Rashford 4 goals, 3 assists. And I was speaking about this on the radio before, and Gaz was disagreeing with me. He was saying, "Oh, I think the attack was all right. They just missed a couple of chances." And I'm like, Garnacho's averaging about 4 or 5 shots a game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's probably the goal scorer because he's having the most shots. It's just not. It's no way near good enough. I referenced the 99 season. We had, because I was looked into this before, we had Ole Gunnar Solskjaer on the bench, right? And I think in all competitions, he scored 18 goals. That's our substitute striker. Yep. So when you compare it to that, I know you don't. I know people moan about you always go back and about the old days, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But to have 2 goals as your top goal scorer after 10 games, that's fucking disgusting almost, isn't it, for a club like United?
There's so much, like you said, maybe it's pressure, maybe it's mentality, but the lack of clinical finishing in our team is insane. Like, there's not a single one of them that is like, if you put a chance in front of them, 9 times out of 10, they're putting it in the back of the net. Yeah. And you can see why Ten Hag was after Harry Kane, because he's going to guarantee that. Like, if you, all these chances that Garnacho's getting, or that Højlund's got, or Rashford's got, Harry Kane's 9 times out of 10 putting that in the back of the net. Like, you see him in the Bundesliga right now. He's fucking scoring goals for fun. He's broke records already.
Goal, innit? Yeah. Guaranteed goal.
So it's that simple. Like, all our players, I don't know if it's mentality. I don't know if it's just they get to that thing and then the brain just switches off and they don't, like...
Do you think that's why Ten Hag didn't... Sorry to cut you in. Why Ten Hag didn't want to let McTominay go? Because he knew these guys, you can't hang your hat to get that amount of goals.
Possible. It's definitely possible. I just think, because you see it all the time, like Garnacho will get into a fantastic area and he makes the wrong decision after wrong decision after wrong decision after wrong decision. And you just like 1 or 2 times, you're like, all right, forgive it and stuff like that. When he just does it consistently, the wrong decision, you're like, what is going on there? Like, this can't be training. You can't be training him to make the wrong decision just continuously. He's getting in these moments and then his head is just not connecting to what he's supposed to be doing. Rashford was doing it for a while as well. He'd get in and then instead of having a shot or playing the ball off, he'd then try and run past over 2 defenders, wouldn't he? And then lose the ball. And then we're doing the same thing with Rasmus Højlund. Instead of playing balls into channels and getting him to run on the end of it, which is what he's really good at, we're playing balls up high to him to take down and use as a target man. That's not his game. That's not what he's good at. He's shit at it. Don't play balls like that to him. They go, oh, he's not taking his chances. He spent all day against Chelsea fighting centre-backs. That's all he did, because you're just knocking balls up to him and expecting to control. It's not who he is. And we're just not playing to the strengths of the players that we have. And then the players that are the ones that you relied on to get your goals are making the wrong decisions consistently. And this is what you end up with 0 goals, like just people not scoring. The only person who looks any sort of clinical is Christian Eriksen. Ridiculous. Like, absolutely ridiculous.
Crazy, innit? When you consider we sign him on a free. I know don't want to be overcritical of Xerxes. We've already spoken about him, but when you look at the money that we spent on him, let's say with agent fees, it comes to 40 million. Could that have not been spent better, or maybe on a more experienced striker? I know there was talks about Danny Welbeck and stuff like that, and people may laugh at that, but he's scored 7 goals, I think, in the league so far this season. 7 goals that we could have done with, which is probably all of our forwards combined. So do you think on reflection, maybe they should have gone, or are you still happy with Xerxes?
I think it's too early to say on Xerxes. I think there's some worrying signs, but I think it's a bit early. Yeah. I think we've just misprofiled him. I think they misprofiled like who he is, what he plays like, what his style is. I think the big mistake was signing Mason Mount. I don't understand why we signed Mason Mount and we didn't go spend 60 million on a striker. I don't get it. Like that doesn't make sense to me. Like, you could have had a really experienced... Ivan Toney was available 40, 50 million. I'm not saying he's the right guy, but that's a clinical goal scorer who will get you goals, and he's done it in the Premier League consistently. Spend that 60 million, 50 million on him. I don't think we needed Mason Mount. I don't think, and obviously with the injuries, that wasn't to be foreseen. So, but I just think wasting money on weird buys has cost us a lot in terms of building a decent squad. And I think, yeah, an experienced striker would have helped us tremendously in this. Like, having a left back would have helped us as well, to be honest with you. But that's another problem.
Yeah, that's a podcast in itself, isn't it? I just think there's a lot of people that kind of turn the nose up at age. You know, when we talk about, you don't want to bring him in because he's past 30. I know we've spoken about it before, but I'm saying it's okay in certain bits. So, like, for example, now we've got Rasmus, who we can grow as a player. He's 21 years old. He's got plenty of years ahead of him. But look at all the best strikers in Europe at the moment who are scoring consistently. Lewandowski for Barcelona is absolutely killing it.
Yep.
Harry Kane in Bayern Munich is absolutely killing it. You know, there's a lot of strikers that are near toward the back end of like 28, 29 that are doing really, really well. I think United needs someone like that because there isn't one player in that forward line that you can hang your hat on and say he's going to go and get the goals today. Not one. And that is a big, big, big problem because defenses win your titles, of course, as they say, but scoring goals wins your games.
Yeah, and we're not winning games. Like, we're not winning games.
We're not doing either. We're conceding goals and hardly scoring any, and that has been a huge issue. I suppose someone like Lindelof coming back into the forward line will help us defensively, especially with Amorim coming in with that, you know, that back five system that we've spoken about, back three, whatever you want to call it. Never played a competitive game under Erik ten Hag, which is just madness. Do you think he could heavily feature under Amorim? And have we almost missed him, do you think?
I don't know if we've missed him because obviously, what did he play? One preseason game?
One, but I mean, let me rephrase the question. In terms of his profile, what he brings when you see some of the problems that we've had.
Yeah, like, I think the way Ten Hag played with the sort of the high press and stuff like that, and then obviously we saw with De Ligt and Leach, especially in that Porto game, because they didn't want to get caught out with the running behind, they kept dropping deeper and dropping deeper and dropping deeper, and then you just had the Almiradion just had all the ball in front of him, which is like a striker's dream. Like, that's what he wants. Yeah, and then he just caused absolute issues. Don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic player, but like we caused our own issues there. I think with Lenny Yoro, he's got great recovery pace. He's a very quick player. You can afford to push up a little bit and sort of put that press on them. And then if a ball does go in behind, he knows he's quick enough to go back and get that ball. Whereas Lissandro and De Ligt, they're not slow, but they're not really, really quick.
Yeah.
And I think when you sort of play with a back three, they sort of make up for each other's deficiencies. You've got the aggressive Leacher who's capable of like playing the ball out under pressure. Lenny Yoro who's got the recovery pace and get back quickly. And then De Ligt who's a bit of a unit and can sort of like get about and use his aerial ability and stuff. I think, yeah, there's some good thing there, especially if he switches to a back three. I think that could be a really interesting thing. I'm just excited to see him play in the United shirt, man. Like I liked what I saw when he played at Lille, and we've had a small sample in the preseason game, so I'm just excited to see him play. And he's in a good position because we've got a few centre backs available. He doesn't have to come straight in and be the saviour. We can bleed him in slowly, give him minutes here, there, and everywhere, and he gets to play under a new manager, so he's not learned any of the sort of flaws that maybe Ten Hag has instilled in this team that still seem a bit evident. He'll come in fresh with Amorim as he's like fresh coach. So yeah, I can't wait to see him play.
Yeah, what I saw in pre-season and what I've seen at Lille, I think it looks really, really exciting. He obviously spent a lot of money. On the flip side of that, I'm also sat there, I'm like, I really don't want him to become like a product of this environment and everything that's going on at the moment. I don't want us to destroy another young talent. And I'm sure he'll be fine. I'm sure he'll be okay. Like I said, you've got a fresh coach with fresh ideas coming in now. So it's different coming into the Ten Hag system. Just the last one before we head off, Sam. We obviously had news on Mason Mount as well. Return to United training, but he's going to be handled carefully and may not be available before the international break. Is he the new Nana's fine China taking over Varane almost?
Oh God! Like, how many times have we had this headline? Mason Mount's return to training. How many times? Yeah. Like,
here's a question: how many games can he play in a row before he gets injured again? Do you think?
2, 3, maybe 3 at a stretch.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. Like, I really don't know what's going on. Like, is there a muscle injury? Are we overtraining him? Is like I don't know what's going on, because that's how many players now? Like 3 players. In Terrell Malacia, Luke Shaw, and Mason Mount, and they've played about, in the last sort of 2 seasons, they played about 10 games between them.
Yeah, it's crazy,
That's
isn't it? I mean,
ridiculous.
the last time Shaw played, what, February, maybe. Mount, he can't. Last time he played a full 90 minutes was probably November last year.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it's annoying, isn't it, to even just think like speculate about, oh, it'd be great, and then you don't get your hopes up because some people don't even like Mount, but I'm like, right, let's get him in, let's see what he's about. 2 games, oh, I can see certain bits, but now he just needs consistency, and then you get that report straight after the game.
Yeah.
He's got a hamstring injury, he's got a muscle injury, he's got this, he's got that. I'm just like, ugh.
I just don't know how long we give these sort of players. Like, we've had Luke Shaw for 10 years now. Has he been at the club?
Almost 10 years.
Yeah. And the last 4, he's barely been available. Like, he's barely been available at all. How long do you give somebody like Mason Mount? He's in his 2nd season now. How long do you give him before you go, look, this guy's never going to be fit? Like, he's never going to be fit.
It's a shame because I feel like both of them players individually for Amorim coming in could be really, really useful in those inside 10.
If they're not available.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, profile-wise, I think Amorim would use them if it was available. I think Shaw, easily, we've seen him before
Absolutely,
in the back 5, like the left side of that, really good on the ball, really good defensively.
Well, they're not.
And I think Mount in those inside positions would be great. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. You have to perform a miracle going into that club if you've got expectations of trying to integrate them into the team, haven't you?
Yeah, like it's like it's all good saying if, buts, whens, and stuff, but they're not available. Like, they haven't been for a long time. Like, it's been consistent with these issues. So I just think I get to the point where you're like, you just need to write them off at this point and just accept they're not available until they can prove their fitness beyond a reasonable doubt. Because at the minute they aren't doing. So if I was Ruben Amorim, I'd be looking at him and going, look, I can't rely on these guys. I need to sort of think beyond that. And if they do get fit, fantastic. If not, I think you need to start looking. Luke Shaw, definitely, you need to start looking at moving him on, I think.
Yeah. I've seen a couple of birds tweeting about potentially bringing in Alvaro back from Benfica.
I'd love that. That'd be fantastic. I'm down with
that as the wing back, so that'd be interesting. We've got Gamer TV in the chat saying Ruben Amorim's also keen on signing Kvaratskhelia at Manchester United. Napoli have put a £90 million price tag on the attacker as contract talks are at an impasse. Yeah, someone who I like, but the source in caught offside. I mean,
90 million. I don't see United paying 90 million for a player.
No, I don't see it. UTFR saying Sam was good, wasn't he, lads? Yeah, fantastic. And you just reminded me to plug it again. We did a show this afternoon with a Sporting Lisbon fan, Sam Fonseca is called. Really, really good analysis on Ruben Amorim, the Sporting team. Literally the whole journey since he's come into when he left and how he feels now he has left. We go through it all with him. So if that's something that you're interested in and you want to get some decent knowledge and insight, have a listen to that. 12 o'clock. It was really, really good.
I've just put it in the chat. I put a link in the chat. So if you want to watch it after we just finish up here, just click that link in the chat and it'll take you straight to the video.
Yeah. We've also got Nick Knack in the chat, who I know is a Southampton fan, and they got their first win over Everton last weekend. So congratulations, Nick Knack. Happy for you, mate. Saying big wages make them very difficult to offload. Tell me about it, mate. It's a story of United season, quite literally. UTFR saying I love Mount, but him and Shaw will be offloaded very soon. Amorim won't stand for them big wages and not playing. Agreed. And will there be much of a transfer pot for Amorim to play with? What do we think, Sam?
In January, probably not.
Absolutely not.
We're very our PSR sort of like restrictions.
On the edge, innit?
It's not right on the edge, I believe, from what reports have been saying. So I imagine there's not going to be much in January. Maybe a loan, maybe.
I think left back. I think we will.
Left back, yeah. But in summer, I imagine, is when they'll start sort of getting transfers. I reckon.
I know it's a long way, but we can finish on this. So let's just say we finish the season. We don't know where we're going to finish. We don't know what budget's going to be, because if we're going to be in the Champions League or we're not. Ruben Amorim comes in. He identifies the squad. He works with them. He knows what he wants. What positions do you think, with him coming in, what will he identify? And what will he need to? What players will he look to bring in?
He's going to want his wing backs, isn't he? He's going to have to sort of figure that out, because left wing back, is it going to be Mazraoui? I don't know.
You've got to get him in somehow, don't you?
Yeah, Mazraoui, I think Mazraoui is a great player. Is he going to be the left wing back, or is he going to be the right wing back? Does he keep Dalot? Is Dalot part of it? Is he good enough? So I think wing backs are going to be key. I think a midfielder is going to be key because I think if Eriksen goes, I think they're going to try and probably get Casemiro off the books as well. So I think a midfielder would be ideal, and then a striker. I think an experienced striker would be great. A guy who's definitely going to get you 15, 20 goals a season. They'd be the three positions I'd be looking at. And two of those you could probably raid from his old club in Humland and Gyökeres, but obviously they're going to cost a shit ton of money. So I think you maybe have to look elsewhere because their release clauses are quite high, as Sporting Sam told us about today. So yeah, I think those would be the three positions I would look at. What would you look at?
No, I think you're spot on. I think the wing backs for sure, because we don't have full backs, let alone wing backs. So whether he's looking at the dynamic of the squad and he thinks, I can probably turn, a couple of these players into wing backs. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe an Antony, maybe a Garnacho. I don't know. And that could work out. I don't think that's out of possibilities. But I think in terms of actual players, Alphonso Davies is a player that I really like and think he'd be perfect for that wing-back role. Jeremy Frimpong is someone we've spoken about before as well. I'm not sure if his release clause is still intact because I'm sure it was 35, 40 million, something along the lines of that. Zubamendi, I'm a big fan of in this system. I think you could bring him into the midfield.
That would boil some piss for the Liverpool fans, wouldn't it? That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, but I think Zubamendi would be great. Gyökeres is another one I'm a fan of, but then it's like, again, he's killing it in the Portuguese league, and he's done well in Champions League as well, to be fair. But then coming over to United, and I don't know about that.
He did well in the Championship when he played for Coventry. When we had my friend Lucian on, he was saying how good he was when he was saying so. Yeah. I think he could work out. But yeah, he said his release cost like 100 million or something, which is just insane. Humland, I've spoken about Humland to death on this channel. I think he's a fantastic player. I would love how if they brought him in. But again, his clause is like 70 million, 60 million or something like that. Yeah. So it's a lot of money.
The one thing I'm looking at, and I'm like, we're probably sweet. Maybe you get one centre-back, depending on who goes, what have you. But I think centre-backs will probably be okay. Especially if you can, by some miracle, get Luke Shaw fit. I think Yoro, De Ligt, Lissandro in that kind of back six or what have you. Maguire probably stays for another year. Him in the back five is absolutely fine. Yeah. I even think Johnny Evans in the back five, absolutely fine. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that'll be fine. But wing backs for sure, midfield. And then, I don't know, maybe chuck a winger in there, potentially. Because it's not traditional wingers with Amorim, is it? It's more, like we said, inside 10. So maybe he wants a certain profile in there, but... Yeah, I'm not sure. Anyway,
I suppose it depends on outgoings, because there's a lot of players who big question marks over them going into the summer, like Antony, Casemiro, people like that. It's like, do they end up sort of going in the summer? So then that sort of creates space for a bit more, like wages wise, to get players in.
Can I make a bold shout?
Go on.
I think if he doesn't go in January, I think Antony would be a good player in this system.
We shall see.
I think he could be effective.
We shall see.
I know it's very, very bold, but I'm just going to call it now.
Somebody clip that, and then we'll come back in a year's time, and we'll see.
Yeah, a pit. Anyway, we'll leave it at that, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Appreciate every single one of you taking time out of your day to get involved in the chat, or even if you're not involved in the chat, just watching the show in general. We've said it before, but check out the video that we did with Sam Fonseca, who's a Sporting Lisbon fan and gives absolute insight to Ruben Amorim and everything that's going on over there. Apart from that, enjoy Monday Night Football tonight. You've got Man City versus Sporting tomorrow, which I'm sure there'll be a lot of eyeballs on. We've got the POAK preview coming up, and then obviously we play on Thursday night as well. So a busy week for Manchester United, which we love as always. Turn on that notification bell, hit that subscribe button, send it to a friend, smash a like on the video, and me and Samuel will see you guys tomorrow. Take it easy. Peace.